Testing, testing.
We can go on the record then.
Yes.
Okay.
We're on the record in case number 9513R, the continuing investigation of the purchased gas adjustment charges of Chesapeake Utilities Corporation, Maryland Division. Start with appearances. Counsel for Chesapeake.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Brian Quinn on behalf of Chesapeake Utilities Corporation. And I have two witnesses here with me today that will identify when they're called to the stand. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Brock Miller on behalf of the Office of People's Counsel.
Good afternoon.
Good morning, Your Honor. Kenneth Albert on behalf of Commission staff.
Good afternoon to you. Mr. Quinn, did you want to start with an exhibit today?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm looking at a cover letter from me on December 11th. Chesapeake filed the certificates of publication for today's hearing in response to your September 22nd, 2023 letter order, and we filed them in the docket previously as ML number 306591. And without objection, I'd like that to be marked as Chesapeake Exhibit 1. And
It'll be marked as Chesapeake Exhibit 1.
And respectfully request that it be moved into the record.
Any objections?
No objection.
No objections.
Chesapeake 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And do you want to call your first witness?
Yes, ma'am. Chesapeake calls Marie Kozel to the stand.
Did you make sure her mic's on?
I turned it on. It should be on. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalties of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your first and last name, and give us your business address.
My name is Marie Kozel. That's M-A-R-I-E-K-O-Z-E-L. The business address is 500 Energy Lane, Dover, Delaware, 19904.
Thank you.
01.
Thank you, Your Honor, with your permission. Ms. Kozel, do you have a document in front of you that includes a cover page that's titled Direct Testimony of Marie E. Kozel in case number 9513R?
I do.
On behalf of Chesapeake Utilities Corporation, is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that dated November 16th, 2023?
Yes, it is.
And does this document consist of 8 pages of question and answer testimony,
It does.
plus 2 exhibits, and the Exhibit 2 consists of 4 schedules? Is that correct?
That is correct.
And was your direct testimony prepared by you or under your direct supervision?
Yes, it was.
And do you have any corrections or additions to make to your testimony today?
No, I do not.
And if these questions in your testimony were asked of you today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
And do you adopt this document as your sworn testimony in this proceeding today?
I do.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'd like to have the direct testimony of Marie Kozel dated November 16th, 2023, marked as Chesapeake Exhibit Number 2, please.
So marked.
And respectfully request it be moved into the record.
Any objections?
No
Objections.
Your Honor, Ms. Kozel is subject to cross-examination.
Okay. And Chesapeake Exhibit 2 is admitted into the record. Does OPC have any questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor, not for this witness.
Staff?
No questions.
Could you turn to page 7 of your testimony?
Yes, ma'am.
Line 16, I just wanted to clarify that the under refund of $141,956, it's supposed to be 83 cents?
You're correct.
Okay, that 9's just sort of,
Extra.
okay. Did you review Ms. Alexander's testimony in this matter?
I did.
So on page 8 of Ms. Alexander's testimony,
Mm-hmm.
on line 19, there's a footnote which refers to Chesapeake's email response to staff dated 12/5/2023.
I'm sorry, on page 8, line 19.
Right, line 19 is where footnote 3 appears.
Yes,
And then if you read footnote 3, it
It's-
says Chesapeake's email response to staff dated 12/5/2023.
that's correct.
And that's an email from you, correct?
That is correct.
And it says, "Hello, Tanika. The costs are not included in the current period under review. Case 9513R." I've read that correctly, right?
That is correct.
Okay, can you explain to me what you mean by that?
Those costs she was inquiring about are related to the purchase of next-gen gas. And we were not billed for those during the period under review, so no costs were included in the period under review.
When was Chesapeake billed for those?
We have not yet been billed as far as I know, but that would be a question better asked of Will Chris.
So presumably, if Chesapeake is billed for it sometime after the first of the year, it would be part of the ACA, correct?
That would be the company's hope. Yes.
When you say it's the company's hope, can you explain what you mean?
That it would be approved by the commission in its next PGA or GSR review.
And that would be the next proceeding?
Correct.
9513S?
Yes.
You don't plan to, and if this is a question for your attorney, just say so, you don't plan to seek, you don't plan to file something with the commission other than that?
That is a question for my attorney, please.
Your Honor, as you can tell in staff's testimony, they're recommending that this contract not be approved as part of the ACA. That's in Ms. Coates, Dr. Coates' testimony in this case, and we can get to that in a minute. But so the sequencing here is a bit odd, I'll grant you. They entered into a contract, Chesapeake's entered into a contract, but haven't been billed for it yet, and that's why the costs aren't in this case. Depending on your decision on this matter in this case, that will just determine our next step. One possibility is we could try again in next year's ACA, or another possibility is we have a rate case that we have to file in January, and we could.
This January
Yes, ma'am.
2024?
Yes, ma'am. We're under commission order to file a rate case in January, and this could become an issue in that. This could become an issue in that case. I can promise you we will not seek double recovery or anything like that.
Thank you. Any questions, any redirect?
No, thank you.
Any questions based on my questions?
No, Your Honor.
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, with that, Chesapeake would like to call its second and final witness to the stand, Mr. William Chris.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under penalties of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your names, spell your first and last name, and give us your business address.
My name is William R. Chris. My first name is William, W-I-L-L-I-A-M. Last name is spelled K-R-I-S-S. Business address 500 Energy Lane, Dover, Delaware 19904.
Thank you.
Mr. Chris, good afternoon. Are you looking at a document in your hands that is entitled Direct Testimony of William R. Chris in case number 9513R?
I am.
And is it dated November 16th, 2023?
It is.
And was this testimony prepared by you or under your direct supervision?
Yes, it was.
Does it consist of 8 pages of question and answer testimony?
It does.
And do you have any changes or corrections or additions you'd like to make to your testimony today?
No, I do not.
And if these questions were asked of you today, would your answers be the same?
They would.
And therefore, do you adopt this written testimony as your direct testimony in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, I'd like to mark Mr. Chris's direct testimony as Chesapeake Exhibit Number 3.
So marked.
Respectfully request that be moved into the record.
Any objections?
Objection none.
Chesapeake Exhibit 3 is admitted into the record.
Witness is available for cross-examination, Your Honor.
A couple of questions, Your Honor. Mr. Chris, good afternoon.
Hello.
With respect to your comments regarding the natural gas from NextGen on page 7 of your testimony, starting at line 19 and going over until the next page, do you know when the company expects to be billed or invoiced for this gas?
Shortly, soon, preferably before the end of the year.
And was there any particular reason why the company chose to execute this contract, by law or regulation or internal policy, perhaps?
The consensus is, as a natural gas company who takes seriously Maryland's GHG goals, we want to do whatever we can to achieve I believe it's the 60% reduction from the 2006 benchmark by 2031. And so to the extent that we are able to find a product that we believe checks the decision criteria outlined in various documents, that we felt this product was the best that the market had to offer, since we had canvassed the market in 2022 with an RFI.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Staff?
Thank you. Kenneth Albert on behalf of staff. First, RFI,
Request for information.
request for information. Is that similar to an RFP, request for proposals?
Yes, sir.
Pretty much the same. Okay, just to follow up a little bit on the questions about this next-gen gas that OPC touched on. You have taken delivery. You mentioned that Chesapeake has not paid for it. But is Chesapeake taking delivery of this gas?
So the nature of the product, as it relates to our asset management agreement, we have upstream assets that physically deliver our molecules to the Eastern Shore City Gate. So this product was purely the environmental attributes associated with the next-gen gas product.
So has the transfer, I'm sorry, I should have stated that more accurately, has the transfer of those environmental attributes occurred?
I'm going to say, generally speaking, yes, although since we haven't paid for it, I'm not sure what the legalistic point of view would be, but I do have confirmation of those environmental attributes belonging to Chesapeake Utilities.
Now, what is the precise definition of next-gen gas?
So the precise definition, I'd first say Dr. Coates outlined next-gen gas beautifully in her testimony. There are several components to next-gen gas, but essentially speaking, it is a product that focuses on monitoring the methane intensity of natural gas molecules from the production wellhead all the way to the delivery point, which is unique in and of itself. Most products just focus on the production, and then the molecules get injected into a pipeline, and then, like Dr. Coates used the analogy, electrons in the electrical grid, you don't really know if you're getting your molecule. But in this case, the molecules from the production wellhead can physically be delivered to Eastern Shore Natural Gas.
Now, when you say the delivery, you mean the delivery point from that interstate pipeline, or the pipeline, into your city gate. That is where the pipeline delivers into your distribution system?
Correct. There is a full path from the wellhead to the Eastern Shore City Gate.
Okay, so it does not cover what happens on the utility itself. It sort of stops at that point.
That's correct.
Now, what entity developed the standards for next-gen gas?
So when you say standards, that I feel like there might be an implication of a regulatory body. I would say it is a product that we've purchased through our asset manager Sequent, and it is offered by a company, New Energy Ventures, in coordination with Context Labs. And so they are also a Williams company. Likewise, Sequent is a Williams company. And so they developed the product to differentiate from other available products in the market, especially, carbon emissions offsets. So this product is distinct carbon emission offset.
Okay, because it focuses on
methane intensity.
responsible operations essentially from the production wellhead into the city gate delivery into the utility.
Correct, and it's monitoring of methane intensity, not carbon emissions.
And you say methane intensity, is it what they call the fugitive emissions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, does any government agency review the criteria that are used in determining what constitutes next-gen gas?
Not to my knowledge. This would be a proprietary product.
Was there an independent energy firm contracted with to review those standards in the process of adopting them?
I'm not certain of that, if there was any formal review at a regulatory level.
Okay, because I saw some mention of an accounting firm, KPMG.
Yeah. So the product itself, there are concerns with these products that they can be double counted, and I'm sure OPC outlined a number of them in a letter regarding a Columbia Gas matter. That all of those concerns are believed to have been assuaged with the use of blockchain technology, so that the shared database, it's a non-fungible asset that has a unique identifier, and then that database is verified by KPMG, to which you refer to, one of the big four international accounting firms.
Okay, and again, as you say, they do it from an accounting, the idea of retiring this environmental attribute, comparable, of course, to a renewable energy credit. The idea you don't want an entity selling it multiple times, so
Precisely.
you retire it, that is, you extinguish it.
That's correct.
Now, who determines compliance, since this is intensely focused on the operational side, that is, making sure, again, minimizing fugitive methane that leaving from the pipe. Is there any compliance on an ongoing basis once an entity is qualified, that is, as a next-gen, they qualify by those standards? Is there any ongoing compliance monitoring to ensure that their operations remain in compliance?
Yes, that is precisely one of the competitive advantages that are offered by the product, is the continuing monitoring of the fugitive and leaks of methane, and compared against generally accepted benchmarks within the region that our Northeast gas is produced.
Okay, so then there is, as your understanding, some compliance on an ongoing basis.
Yes.
Monitoring of that.
Yes, and our certificates show that.
And again, to clarify, as you say, this is not the cost of the gas by itself, or per se. It's not the cost of the gas at all. It's the environmental attributes that are sort of packaged as a separate product, again, akin to the renewable energy credits on the electric side.
That is correct.
Okay. And how did Chesapeake, determine how much to pay for the environmental attributes?
So this is the only product of its nature. And there was a data request where, without revealing any confidential information, the data request correlated the premium paid to be in line with FERC-approved tariff fuel percentages. So it's generally speaking a de minimis amount of premium that it's not exorbitant if you compare it to, for example, fuel, where all shippers must purchase fuel in order to get their gas delivered. The premium paid for this product is in line with what a shipper would have to pay for fuel, because shippers don't get the benefit of the fuel just gets the gas to show up. So the premium is in line with those percentages.
Now, what is the similarity then between an environmental attribute and the pipeline fuel gas, which, as you note, is something that interstate pipelines flow through by a fuel tracker? How is an environmental attribute, let me put it that way, how is an environmental attribute comparable to transportation fuel?
It's not. It's only the only reason I attempted. The question of the data request was how can we determine whether or not the premium was reasonable? And the utility, when it purchases gas, we have to buy fuel, and we do not. The only benefit of the fuel is that you're paying extra money so that the gas shows up. And so I'm thinking, well, how else are we able to quantify the benefit of environmental attributes? I mean, I think it's well understood that quantifying the value of clean air and, protecting infrastructure from methane leaks, there is no dollar figure on. It's difficult to put a dollar figure on that benefit. And so when posed with the question, how are you believing that your premium is not egregious in some way, I correlated it to fuel because, fuel is, a few percentage points of costs that are incurred to ship gas. Well, this premium is in line with a few percentage points to ensure that the natural gas product being purchased is being monitored and can be directly correlated with the usage of Maryland natural gas customers.
Are there any, I know with renewable energy credits, there's a whole bunch of databases out there, different states, Maryland, of course, being among them. So that there's sort of a comprehensive databases showing what the current prices are and how they move. Is there anything comparable with environmental attributes, or is it just too new a product to that sort of liquidity and market transparency to have developed?
To my knowledge, this product is not traded in the manner that the energy credits are. The product is centered around paying a premium for the monitoring of your supply so that you can ensure that you are aware of its impact on the environment.
And I think you said this earlier, so forgive me for repeating, this was a discretionary act, as you say, by the utility feeling an obligation to be environmentally a good environmental citizen. A discretionary act by Chesapeake. It certainly was not necessary as part of gas supply, because as you say, it is not a gas supply transaction, correct?
That is correct. We were not compelled to do that, but in light of climate awareness being in the forefront of everyone's mind, the company, we wish to participate in the state's goal of greenhouse gas emission reductions. And so to the extent that we are able, we felt this product fit that the best that a natural gas company could deliver.
Now, did Chesapeake consult with commission staff prior to executing the contract for the next gen gas?
No, we did not.
And was there any outreach to customers explaining that this new thing on the horizon, this environmental attribute transaction, was that any kind of customer notification on that?
No, sir, there was not.
Is there any intent to alert the customers to this sort of innovative product?
It has been discussed, but as my attorney said earlier, we weren't sure the outcome of the cost, and so the outcome of this case would likely determine how we move forward.
Do you know of any other Maryland utilities that are purchasing these environmental attributes as well?
No, not Maryland utilities.
Other in other states?
Yes, I believe I included two press releases, one for Dominion Energy, Chattanooga Gas, and Coterra Resources. I believe that's Pennsylvania.
Okay.
You included those where?
I believe it would have been in a data request. It was not part of my formal testimony.
Your Honor, it's staff 3-3.5.
Which is attached to what?
Is it attached to staff's? Oh, it wasn't attached. I thought it was.
We'll get to that, I guess.
Thank you. I will let them know. I was just alerted that we could send, Your Honor, the press releases that Mr. Chris is referring to, if you'd like, as again, provided in a data response.
I was just going to pull it up if it was already in the record or
No, I
already
don't
had
think
it.
so. Mr. Chris, thank you very much. That's all staff has.
Any redirect?
Real brief, if that's okay, Your Honor. Mr. Chris, now, you answered that the Next Gen Gas, you purchased the attributes of that gas,
That's correct.
but isn't it true that the actual molecules were also injected into the system?
Yes, yeah, we did not take delivery of those molecules, but it is a fact that the nature of this product, the molecules can be injected into the interstate pipeline system.
Okay, all right. And if you know, Mr. Chris, has staff asked in prior PGA cases, have they asked in data requests whether or not we've purchased any similar products to
Yes,
this
it-
in the last few years?
Yes, it is a recurring data request, which also, bolstered our desire to participate to the extent that the goals as outlined allow us.
Okay, nothing further from me. Thank you, Your Honor.
If you turn to page 7 of your testimony, and the question being, did the company purchase or contract for natural gas that mitigates greenhouse gas emissions? You say yes. The company executed a transaction for 3 months of supply, or approximately 180,000 decatherms. So your testimony, I find it to be a little bit confusing, because now you're saying you didn't contract for the actual gas, you only contracted for the attributes.
You are correct, Your Honor. I conflated supply with natural gas attributes. The reason why I probably put that language in there is, I wanted to show that this product differentiates itself from carbon emissions in that it's precise, which is also something that I think that was mentioned in the Columbia Gas of Maryland. For every 1 decatherm of consumption that the customers, Chesapeake's customers, consume, we can go and purchase 1 decatherm of this product so that we can match usage with molecules that are being monitored for methane intensity. And so I think my thought was I wanted to draw the conclusion that this is supply, unlike credits that can be seen as ambiguous or nebulous in that they get traded. This does come from a physical supply source. It's just we already have assets with our asset manager, so we detach the attributes and we can pair them with our supply.
And you said that the molecules could be injected and could get to Chesapeake's customers, but not necessarily, because
Well, we aren't taking physical delivery of them because we already are taking physical delivery on our other upstream assets.
so where is the gas going, to the best of your knowledge?
Displacement, whatever arrangement the producer has with Sequent and New Energy Ventures, that they perform the balancing services that would be required to keep the molecules in line with FERC-approved tariffs.
So we really don't know whether Chesapeake's customers are receiving the benefit of the product.
Well, actually, we do, Your Honor, because that would be the certificate of attribute itself. Said differently, the production process with the continuum, the attribute is the certification by KPMG that the production has a measured methane intensity.
Which is taking place somewhere else.
Northeastern Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And then the path, and I have an example I brought with me if you'd like to see the physical certificate itself. But the path is in Northeast Pennsylvania, and it can physically make its way to Eastern Shore City Gate. So the attribute is, as Albertson,
Yeah.
as he mentioned, the credits are stripped from the molecules. That happens here as well. But these molecules could physically get to Eastern Shore City Gate. It's not like this is landfill gas in the Midwest that could not physically make its way to the Northeast.
But it's likely it's only a percentage. Along the way, other customers are also getting the same gas.
The molecules, yes. There's no guarantee that, you are correct, there is no guarantee that the molecule that was produced made its way to Eastern Shore. However, we are purchasing this product because we know that that molecule that was produced was being continually monitored and produced using best practices to limit methane emissions. And so that becomes the attribute by which we can overlay on our own purchase supply.
And, right, so the price you paid, I think when you were using the word premium, basically you're paying an additional amount on top of what it would otherwise cost because this process, this certification costs money.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, so you're paying a premium. And you expect to be billed soon. Isn't there a difference from, for the purposes of these proceedings, whether you pay that bill this month, December of 2023, or you pay it in January of 2024?
I'm not sure.
Does Ms. Kozel know?
When you say, is there a difference?
In terms of accounting?
For accounting,
So you expect to be billed soon, and then according to the contract, you have to pay. Do you remember how many days you have to pay?
There are terms. There was a. Let me see if I have the.
Because I see under billing, payment, and audit, seller shall invoice, and then buyer shall pay seller for environmental attributes received for actual consumption of buyer for the period July 1, 2023 through September 30, 2023, within 10 days of transfer.
Yes, Your Honor. Section 9, subset A. Yes, Your Honor. I see that.
So would you take that to mean that you would have to pay within 10 days of being invoiced?
Yes, of being invoiced.
And
of
as
which
we sit here on December 14th, if you received a bill in the mail today, you'd have to pay that in 2023.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So we're going to have to recall Ms. Kozel to find out the accounting of that. And did I understand you're sort of waiting to notify customers until you find out how the commission feels about this? Is that the impression? That's what I got.
That's the general consensus, Your Honor.
Is this next gen gas an alternative fuel under your AMA?
No, Your Honor, it is not.
But this was done with your asset manager.
That's correct.
A little confusion on the date. The date of your contract is August 1, but the gas, it's for gas that was supplied somewhere starting July 1?
Yes, Your Honor. The nature of the attributes not having to correlate with delivery of the physical supply. Yes, there is a mismatch from the trade date. It was not imperative, so it was believed, that the trade date sync with the beginning of the delivery period.
Any understanding of why you haven't been invoiced yet?
Systems.
Any questions based on my questions?
If I may, Your Honor, just the point you're getting at, just clarification, just to make sure I got this. Your testimony, you refer to the 180,000 decatherms
Yes.
associated with environmental attributes from Sequent. Does that mean you're also buying 180,000 decatherms of supply from Sequent, or because I thought they were totally divorced? You could two separate products.
That's
It's like on
correct.
the rec side. You could be buying environmental attributes from Sequent without buying any molecule, any gas supply at all from Sequent. Is that right?
That is correct. Although we, them being our asset manager, we are buying daily supply from Sequent, just not this physical supply.
Okay, so it's not, well, it may be happening in certain situations. The environmental attributes are truly a separate product.
That's correct.
Again, so you could, again, if you're not buying anything from Sequent, you could still be buying this 180,000 decatherms. And also, as far as this accounting, the review period here, as I understand it, that we're addressing for your gas supply costs is October 22 through September 2023, correct?
Correct.
So anything starting October 2023, actual cost incurred, that is, you paid the invoice, would wait until the next review period. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, can I risk beating this dead horse? One more
If
question.
it clears up the record,
I'm trying to do this in two questions. So again, to be clear, the molecules associated with these particular attributes that you bought were injected into this gas delivery system somewhere, most likely northern Pennsylvania.
They are certainly
Certainly.
produced and injected into the interstate pipeline.
Got it.
And the attributes are then removed from the physical molecules and available for purchase separate from the physical molecules.
Okay. And to your knowledge, is there any natural gas production going on in the state of Maryland?
No, and that is
So-
a frustration.
Isn't it true that all residential and commercial industrial customers in the state of Maryland obtain their natural gas supply from wells that produce gas that are located out of state?
That is correct.
So if you wanted to attack this particular issue of ensuring that those production facilities that eventually serve Maryland customers are doing it under the certificated way, this product
Mr.
addresses
Grant,
that.
can you ask non-leading questions?
Oh, I'm
before
sorry.
we-
I'm sorry. So how is this next gen gas an attempt by Chesapeake to address the issue of natural gas production in a certificated way?
That's correct. As we understand the outline goal for reducing GHGs, Chesapeake believes it has checked as many of the boxes that it was able to, but Mr. Quinn is alluding to the fact that the focus of Maryland's climate goal is reducing emissions within the state, but it is nearly a barrier to entry for us to participate because there is no natural gas produced within the state. And so this product, we leaned on the fact that because this product is measurable, it's verifiable, and it can be paired with decatherm to decatherm of environmental attribute to 1 decatherm of consumer usage, that this is the best opportunity that we have to assist in that goal for Maryland.
But why the amount?
It was a de minimis amount, Your Honor. 3 months of supply. The company felt that, as Mr. Albertson outlined, we did not consult the commission and we did not perform a customer outreach, and we thought we needed to start the conversation, and thus we are having the conversation.
Apologies for leading question, Your Honor. Apologies, colleagues. Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chris.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's the end of Chesapeake's witnesses, Your Honor.
Can we recall Ms. Kozel quick, please? So you're still under oath.
I know,
Okay.
yes.
So I'm looking at your exhibit, MEK-1.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, so it's projected to be collected, you have projections October, November, December of 2023. You're projecting that out,
Yes.
but based on what Mr. Chris said, that doesn't matter because in the next proceeding, regardless of whether you pay the bill for these attributes in December of '23 or January of '24, it'll all be accounted for in the next PCA.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Back up.
Now we're all out of witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you want to wait till the end then to talk to me about 4-402? Do you want to wait till after staff witnesses have gone?
Sure.
Okay. OPC has no witnesses, correct?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, staff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our first witness we would call to the stands is Dr. Pamela Coates.
You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under the penalties of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name, spell your first and last name, and give us your business address.
Pamela Coates, Pamela Coates, 6 St. Paul Street, Baltimore, Maryland.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Coates, did you prepare testimony in this case?
Yes, I did.
And let's turn first to you have a public version of your testimony and a confidential version, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we would ask that Dr. Coates' public version be marked as Staff Exhibit 1.
So marked.
And did you also file a confidential version of your testimony?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, we would ask that the confidential version be marked as Exhibit 1C.
So marked.
Do you have any revisions to your testimony?
No.
Your Honor, we would ask that you allow to be moved into the record Dr. Coates' Exhibit 1, our public version of our direct testimony, and Exhibit 1C, the confidential version of that testimony.
Any objections?
None, Your Honor.
No objection.
Staff Exhibit 1 and 1C. They are both entered into the record.
With that, Your Honor, the witness is available for cross-exam.
OPC?
Just one question. Dr. Coates, on page 14 of your direct testimony, kind of at the end of your discussion about the next-gen gas, you say that changes in regulations or the outcome of a commission proceeding under case number 9707 may alter the conclusion. What did you mean by that specifically to case 9707?
I was referring to case 9707 is the OPC petition to open a proceeding on the gas industry. And the commission has taken in comments but has not yet declared what it's going to do with that. Should it open a proceeding, it's possible that regulations would come out of that proceeding that would make it required for gas companies to take actions to mitigate fugitive emissions. If that happened, then that would change my conclusion that I arrived at in this case, where it is not yet required either by the commission or by the legislature to do that.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Your Honor. Brian Quinn on behalf of Chesapeake. Ms. Coates, turning to the similar portion of your direct testimony, on page 14, top of page 14, where you say, I can summarize. So it's lines 2 through 4. The price, where you're talking about Chesapeake's decision to acquire next-gen attributes. On line 3, you say that under current laws and regulation, this type of product is not a necessary cost purchasing gas.
Yes.
Is that why your conclusion is not to approve the recovery of this particular contract in this fuel rate case?
Let me be clear. It is the accounting division's decision to pull things out or not, but that is the basis or the primary basis on which I think that this is, all right, what is the language? Let me look. It is my job to determine whether it is reasonable and competitive. And reasonable has been defined to be necessary. Is it a necessary cost? And so that is, in fact, the decision. The reason that I say, yes, I do not consider this a necessary cost.
Did you review the actual cost that Chesapeake paid for these attributes?
I reviewed the information that was sent to me in an email by Ms. Kozel, which is confidential, but that 4 cents is from that, and she told me that number was not confidential.
You don't have to talk about the number. I'm just asking you, did you look at the cost?
I did, yes.
And did you have any objection to that cost?
Objection to the, you mean as a cost for the
For the actual...
for the, you know, I did not investigate what attributes would, I didn't compare them to anything, so I have no way to judge them. The company said that you looked at them. So I guess I have no objection to the cost as that's a reasonable cost for attributes. The answer is I don't know because I didn't look at all into that question.
Okay. But it's fair to say that your statement there isn't in your testimony.
Oh no, in no sense was my thinking based on that somehow I thought these attributes are way too expensive. Oh no, I have no idea. I didn't look at that question at all. That was not in any way the basis of my decision.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any redirect?
Just one question, Your Honor, just to clarify. Dr. Coates' testimony is in the record. It includes 5 exhibits, PEC 1 through PEC 5. I want to confirm that in admitting her direct testimony into the record that it includes those exhibits attached to her testimony.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Coates, you just told Mr. Quinn that reasonable has been interpreted as necessary. Can you direct me to anything in particular?
I knew as soon as I said that you were going to ask me that question, and I know that I just looked at it today, and I've been sitting here flipping through trying to find it, and I have not found it. So no, I cannot. I apologize, Your Honor.
Maybe your attorney can. Don't worry about it.
Your Honor, in fact, we just filed our brief in the Washington Gaslight rate case, and I know at the beginning of any rate case brief we cited precedent, and I could send that to you, for the proposition that in a rate case, recovery of a cost requires, first of all, that it be associated with an activity that's a necessary component of the utility's performance of its utility functions. So yeah, we can send that to you. I don't have it at the top of my head, but like I said, we that's a fairly standard introduction to staff's briefs in rate cases, so I could readily get that for you. And that be, yes, as you note, as Dr. Coates notes, that was
Talking about the general proposition.
right, the general proposition, and that as Dr. Coates points out, that plays directly into this issue. We appreciate, and Dr. Coates is very upfront about that the efforts, we applaud and encourage these kind of efforts, but in terms of cost recovery, which again, we're not getting at here, but that will be an issue that needs to be addressed because it is not, we don't view it as a necessary part of obtaining a gas supply.
Actually, yes, and it may, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
There's not a question on the table.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So your understanding from the research you did that the attributes, I guess I don't want to use the same word twice, but the attributes of the attributes It's production and transmission, so even though it's produced in Pennsylvania, to the extent that the benefits of this gas are also in the transmission, that it might benefit Maryland?
Actually, that is a question that I thought some about, and I didn't call MDE to double check, but staff's research for 97 for our comments in 9707 indicated that in order to be counted toward the Maryland greenhouse gas inventory, it would have to be emissions released in Maryland, which now part of that, to the extent that that gas, those molecules, make it through to Maryland, then there could be some emissions reduction. How it would be measured, how much of it would be. If most of the savings were at the wellhead, then it would be part of Pennsylvania's GHG reduction. I don't know how MDE would count this, but half of the gas GHG emissions in Maryland that come from gas are from the burning of the gas, about half, and the other half are mostly from the interstate and distribution transmission. And I don't remember how much is interstate and how much is distribution. And so if it's in the distribution transmission, that's not covered by this. It's only the interstate. So it would be however much of that gas didn't get released in the part of the interstate pipeline that was inside of the state of Maryland. That is what would count to Maryland's GHG emission reduction goal.
Were you the witness in the Elkton gas case?
I was not. That was Evan Thomas,
Are you,
I think.
you're aware though that Elkton Gas was recently acquired by the same parent company?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because you did the comparison of the AMA premiums.
Yes, I did.
That's on page 5.
Right, and that's confidential, yes.
Right, we're not going to talk about the numbers specifically. When you compared them, though, you looked at the percentage change between the 2020 and the 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Did you consider the dollars, though, without looking at percentage? Given that Chesapeake, it's a larger dollar amount?
Did I consider them in making what decision? I'm sorry.
Well, you concluded that so on page 7, does the fact that Chesapeake could have received a better valuation premium raise any questions? And you say, yes, it does. And then you have a lot of discussion. And then you conclude on the top of page 9 that in the current case, it was reasonable. The AMA is reasonable.
I do.
Okay.
And yes, I did consider the dollar amounts, absolutely.
I guess what I'm wondering is whether in dollar amounts the percentage difference to Chesapeake is not significant compared to the percentage differences for Sandpiper and Elkton, but the dollar amounts are more similar.
Yes, overall there is a net gain among the three Maryland utilities of that amount listed there at the bottom and then the percentage. For the three Maryland utilities, there's a net gain of that dollar amount and that percentage.
Yes. And you concluded that this was reasonable for all three, and therefore reasonable for Chesapeake.
I concluded that was an interesting question to think about. And when thinking about it, really, the underlying question is, should Chesapeake's contract have been bid out separately? That's one possibility. Or that, and see what it could get separately, because together it was taking this loss, right? Or should the company have accepted the contract that gave Chesapeake the best deal and gave a less good deal to the other two Maryland divisions? Yes? So I had to think of, those were the only two other options that I could think of other than this one. And so when I considered each of those other options, I couldn't come up with a reason that they would be better, in the sense that if you separate Chesapeake, you lose economies of scale. And while Chesapeake is the largest, Sandpiper's not tiny. So you've got, and also the pipeline connections among them count too. So it's all, if you lose economies of scale, you're not likely to get as good a deal. So we can't say, oh, well, Chesapeake would be better off if we separated them. I don't think we can say that. We can't. And without testing, we can't say for sure, but it seems unlikely to me.
But the second question.
The second question, that was one that you had really had to think about. And where I came down to it was, what the company decided to do was make the pie as big as possible, right? And let's suppose that instead they had said, oh, well, we don't want Chesapeake to get hurt, so we had better accept a contract, the contract that offered them a small increase, right? Even though that will hurt the other two companies. The other companies won't do as well as they could. Well, then we would be asking the question from the other point of view, right? The other two companies had, or at least one of them, had to take a hit to benefit Chesapeake. Whereas this time we're saying Chesapeake had to take a hit to benefit the others. So either way, the question becomes, should one company, unless you happen to get an offer that is the highest number for each of the three, right? And then that's the obvious winner. That would also then give you the biggest net. That would make the pie as big as possible by definition, if it gave every company the most.
But as far as you know, there's no ability to negotiate.
I have no idea how to negotiate. I don't know anything about
I
that.
guess you said they got this offer and this offer, and they went with this
Oh,
one.
that's what I'm told, is that they put out RFPs and they got 4 offers. That's what the company said, and then that's how it always is in these cases, is you put out RFPs and then you get back offers and you accept one of the offers. I don't know if the company ever negotiates. But I do know
Because
that,
you would agree that there's, if you could play with these numbers, you could get to a more fair result.
oh, well, I don't know, but you could get to a result that benefited everyone if you could play with the numbers. Yes. When I did ask, I specifically asked the company this question, and that DR response is not attached. May I refer to it anyway? If I
You
do?
can refer to it
Okay.
as long
I
as it's
asked
not
them.
confidential.
I asked them this question, and I hope I have that DR back here. Let me see. I asked them, and they said that the way it is determined is that each of the companies that's making a bid, oh, I think I only have it in my Sandpiper folder. Each of the companies that is making a bid evaluates the value of the assets of each, because they have a different AMA with each of the LDCs, each of the distribution companies. So they evaluate what they consider to be the value of the assets of each of those distribution companies and bases it on that, and that they have some mathematical model that is proprietary, and they put the numbers all through that model and they come up with something. So when I asked the company to explain to me why they got this result for these 3 companies, I was told that they contacted Sequent, and Sequent wouldn't tell them because it was from a proprietary model. But it was Sequent's best assessment of the value of the individual assets of each of the distribution companies. And I hope I just said all that correctly. The company is nodding. I think I said all that correctly. but I was unable to get an answer to that exact question. I did ask it.
Any questions based on my questions?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I'm sorry I spoke out of turn.
Your Honor, staff's next and final witness, Ms. Tanika Alexander.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalties of perjury that the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Will you please state your name, spell your first name and last name, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Tanika Alexander, spelled T-A-N as in Nancy, Y-E-K-A. Last name Alexander, A-L-E-X-A-N-D as in dog, E-R. My business address is 6 St. Paul Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 20202.
Your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Alexander, did you prepare direct testimony in this proceeding that was filed yesterday, December 13th?
Yes, I did.
And that consisted of testimony itself and 2 attachments, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have any revisions or corrections to that testimony?
I actually do. If you go to one of the last pages of my attachment B, I asked a question. It's question PSC 4-5, the response from the utility. I realized, or I was brought to my attention, that I asked a question in reference to the, but I named Berlin as the company, and it should be Chesapeake. I got a response. Thank you. But in any case, I mentioned Berlin instead of Chesapeake, and that is the correction I needed.
Okay, and that's the only correction you have.
Yes, thank you.
Your Honor, we would ask that Ms. Alexander's testimony be marked as Staff Exhibit Number 2,
So marked.
and we would ask that it be introduced into the record.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
No objection.
Staff Exhibit 2 is admitted into the record.
With that, Your Honor, Ms. Alexander is available for cross.
Mr. Quinn?
No questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
No
Thank you,
questions,
Ms.
Your Honor.
Alexander.
And I have no questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the easy answer is that it's not in this proceeding R, right?
Yes.
Okay. But that just means that we'll be talking about it next year.
Perhaps.
Don't say anything
Perhaps.
else. But I don't think that really is the answer. So this proceeding is governed by PUA Section 4-402, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And in this case, what we are doing is determining whether the company has or hasn't shown that the charges were based solely on increased costs of fuel, purchased power, or purchased gas, whether the company failed to follow competitive practices in procuring and purchasing fuel, power, or gas, or whether the company failed to show that its practices in procuring and purchasing fuel were reasonable. I think that as far as this case goes, we've determined that the practices in procuring and purchasing fuel are reasonable. And what you're asking for is really, I believe, a question for the commission to determine whether you should be able to pass on to your customers the cost of these attributes. And I do think that's a question for the commission, and you should probably bring that in your rate case.
That's fair, Your Honor. I only will say there are other costs that are recovered through fuel rates, PJM on the electric side, for example. PJM membership fees are recovered through the fuel rates of
Yeah, and I
electric
think
companies.
if
I'm just
no, but
and I
if
know you don't
memory
want
serves,
briefing on
I think that OPC has challenged that. I don't know if Mr. Miller's aware of that, but that was an issue that OPC
Yeah, I think
kind of had to get over, right?
that's right.
And I think once the purchase of these attributes is approved by the commission, then the costs could be passed through in the ACA and the PCA. But I don't know that the approval process of that, especially given what we discussed today and the unclear nature of how much benefit to Maryland's GHG emissions is there, that, like I said, I believe this is just, it's a question for the commission, and it's not appropriate in a PCA proceeding for me to determine, especially on a proactive basis.
Completely fair, Your Honor. I just wanted to give you the reason why we're here in the first place. Just to let you know, we weren't just bringing this without a colorable argument. That's all. But your comments are more than fair. Appreciate it.
And the other thing that, needs to happen is notice to your customers, of course. So, no decision on it today. Mr. Albert, you'll probably be dealing with it in the rate case then.
Yes, we know this will come, we'll see it again. And again, it was outside the period of this case, so we recognize that. It's helpful to get an advanced look at it. This has been educational for all of us, but we will again revisit this.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So if there's nothing else we need to do, we're going to go off the record. And then I need to make a call to stop the stream.